3 strategic silence techniques that break manipulators. Some people don't control you with force. They control you with pressure. They rush your answers, twist your emotions, push you to explain yourself before you've even understood what's happening. And the moment you panic and start talking too much, the game is already theirs. Most people think silence means weakness, that if you don't respond instantly, you look afraid. But manipulators know the truth. Silence is dangerous, because when you stop reacting on command, you interrupt their script. And when their script breaks, their confidence starts collapsing faster than most people realize. That's why today's video matters, because silence is not just the absence of words. In the hands of a weak person, it becomes fear. But in the hands of a strategic person, silence becomes a weapon so sharp. Manipulative people often destroy themselves trying to escape it. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology did. The person who controls the pace of a conversation often controls the emotional outcome. And silence does exactly that. It slows the room. It disturbs liars. It forces hidden intentions into the light. The first technique proves it brutally. Technique 1, the delayed response. Manipulators love speed. They want immediate answers, instant emotions, fast reactions. Why? Because speed weakens judgment. The faster you reply, the less time you have to think. And the less time you think, the easier it becomes for them to steer your words into their trap. Imagine this. Someone accuses you unfairly in a meeting, or a family member says something designed to sting. They expect you to defend yourself immediately. They expect your mouth to outrun your mind, but instead, you pause, you breathe. You let the silence sit between you like a blade. That pause changes everything. Because the moment you delay, you force them to feel the weight of their own words. Suddenly, they are no longer controlling the tempo. Now, they're sitting inside uncertainty. And uncertainty is poison for people who depend on emotional momentum to manipulate others. The delayed response doesn't mean saying nothing forever. It means refusing to answer on their schedule. Sometimes 3 seconds is enough. Sometimes 10. Sometimes you simply say, "Interesting," or "I'll respond in a moment." That tiny delay sends one brutal message: you do not control me. Most people don't realize how much respect is built in those small pauses. Weak people rush, controlled people choose, and manipulators can feel that difference instantly. They can sense when someone is no longer available for emotional hijacking. That's when their energy begins to shift from confidence to caution. Be honest, how many times did someone win simply because they made you react too fast? Drop pause in the comments if you've ever answered too quickly and regretted it later. Because the second silence technique is darker, and it makes manipulators start exposing themselves without even realizing it. Technique 2, the unanswered question. Manipulators survive by forcing you into defense mode. They ask loaded questions. Why are you so sensitive? Why are you overreacting? Why are you making this a big deal? Those questions are not honest. They are traps designed to make you explain yourself while they stay protected. Imagine someone disrespects you, then asks, "Why are you upset?" Most people instantly start explaining. Big mistake. The second you begin defending your emotions, the conversation shifts. You are now on trial, and the manipulator has quietly promoted themselves into judge, jury, and director of the entire scene. This is where strategic silence becomes devastating. Instead of answering their loaded question, don't let it hang, or better, replace it with a calm stare. Or ask your own simple question: why did you say it that way? That one move flips the pressure back where it belongs. Now watch what happens. The manipulator stumbles. They repeat themselves. They laugh awkwardly. They suddenly claim, "You misunderstood." Why? Because silence forced them to sit with their own intention. And when you redirect the question, you expose whether their words had honesty or hidden poison. This technique works because manipulative people hate mirrors. They love throwing pressure outward, but they hate having their own behavior examined. The moment you stop explaining yourself and start making them explain themselves, the game changes. And most manipulators are far weaker under inspection than they appear. Never forget this. A manipulator's favorite position is above your emotions. Your silence removes that throne. Your unanswered pause, your redirected question, your refusal to explain your pain like a suspect. That is what makes them lose balance. Because suddenly, they're the one being read. And if you've ever felt someone twist the conversation until you were defending feelings instead of addressing facts, comment mirror. Because the final silence technique. This one doesn't just interrupt manipulators, it makes many of them panic and reveal exactly who they are. Technique 3. The silent exit. This is the technique most people are too emotional to use, because sometimes the strongest silence is not a pause, not a stare, not a delayed answer. Sometimes the strongest silence is leaving calmly, cleanly, without drama, without begging, without one last exhausting explanation. Manipulators are addicted to access. They need your attention, your defense, your emotional energy, your need to be understood. That's their fuel. And most people keep feeding them because they believe closure comes from one final conversation. But dirty people don't want closure. They want continued control. Imagine this. You've explained yourself 3 times. They still twist your words. They still deny obvious facts. They still provoke and then play innocent. At that point, staying in the conversation is not maturity. It's surrender. And manipulators know exactly how long to keep you trapped there. The silent exit breaks that cycle. You end the exchange with something simple. This conversation is no longer useful. Or, I'm done discussing this. Then you leave. No emotional fireworks. No revenge speech. Just absence. And absence terrifies people who built their power on constant access to you. Why does this work so well? Because it creates a void. And manipulators hate voids. They need noise to distort. They need chaos to hide in. They need your continued participation. When you remove yourself without emotional leakage, they are left alone with something they cannot easily manipulate anymore. Silence. This is where many manipulators make their biggest mistake. They chase. They send another message, another insult, another fake apology, another guilt trap. Why? Because silence starves them, and starving people reveal themselves faster than comfortable people ever do. The silent exit often triggers their ugliest truth, and that's the real power. Not winning the argument, not proving you were right, but watching someone unravel because they can no longer feed on your presence. Once you understand that, you stop treating access like kindness. You start treating it like the privilege it actually is. If that hit harder than expected, tell me in the comments, which one is hardest for you? Pausing, redirecting, or walking away? I read those carefully. Because the next video may be built around the silence technique most people still struggle to use when it matters most. Now look at the pattern clearly. The delayed response breaks their speed. The unanswered question breaks their framing. The silent exit breaks their access. 3 techniques, 3 forms of silence, and every one of them attacks the exact foundation manipulative people depend on to keep psychological control. And here's the part most people never realize. Manipulators don't always fear loud strength. Sometimes they can fight that, they can twist that, they can perform against that. But quiet strength, controlled silence, strategic absence, that terrifies them. Because they can't easily predict what they can't emotionally read. That's why silence is not passive. It's not surrender. It's not fear. In the right hands, silence is disciplined force. It says, I see what you're doing. I refuse your tempo. I refuse your frame. And if necessary, I refuse your access. Few things are more threatening than that. And yes, when you start using these techniques, some people will call you cold, distant, changed, difficult. But that's what manipulators often say when your emotional doors stop opening on demand. That's not your cruelty. That's their frustration meeting a boundary they can no longer bypass. The truth is brutal. Many people are not destroyed by manipulation because they are weak. They are destroyed because they keep speaking in rooms where silence would have protected them. They keep explaining to people, committed to misunderstanding them. They keep offering access to people who only came to exploit it. So remember this: the next time someone rushes you, twists your words, or pulls you into emotional mud, don't fight every battle with more language. Sometimes the smartest answer is slower, smaller, sharper, a pause, a stare, a question, or a clean disappearance they never saw coming. Because the real goal is not to win over manipulators, it's to become so difficult to control. They stop choosing you as a target. That is the hidden victory. Not applause, not closure, not revenge. Just the moment a manipulative person realizes you are no longer easy prey. And once that shift happens, your whole life changes. Conversations feel lighter. Energy leaks close. Fake people become easier to spot. Emotional traps become visible sooner. You stop begging to be understood, and you start moving with the kind of quiet authority that makes weak minds deeply uncomfortable. If you want more than motivation, if you want the kind of psychological weapons that make manipulative people hesitate before testing you, then subscribe now. Because most channels tell you how to feel, this channel teaches you how hidden power actually moves beneath human behavior. Because the next video won't just show you how manipulators talk, it will reveal the exact phrases they use to make kind people doubt themselves in real time. And once you hear those phrases, you'll start noticing them in family, co-workers, relationships, maybe even today. And that is exactly why most people stay trapped for years. Not because they lack intelligence, but because nobody taught them that silence can be more powerful than speech when the room is built for deception. Learn that